As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council meeting to order. I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, good evening, everybody. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, we have two. One is to add a resolution to the consent agenda for the public hearing for Buckhorn, which is item C. I guess you added item D here. And then I had one additional one that, what was the additional one, Kimberly?
That Eva Capabianco, who was
Yes.
introduced, is not going to be able to be with us this evening. We'll schedule her at a later meeting.
Thank you.
Those noted on our agenda. All right, up next is your consent agenda.
Move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is our introduction of employees, and we'll begin with Dale Medlin, our electrical system director.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I've got a new employee here. We're really proud and happy to have him on board. I've been accused of stealing him again from Miss Gaines' department. Young man went to school on his own accord at Nash Community College for lineman school. Passed with flying colors, and we hired him for the department. Come on up. Young man's name is Jacob Robertson. His title's Electric Line Tech 1. So, I'll say a few words.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to get started here.
Well, we're glad you're here. I mean, we hate it for and game, but you know. Well, we're glad you're here, and congratulations. Good work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Will be the introduction of the TGCOG volunteer with Economic Development, Patrick Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to take a few minutes tonight to recognize someone that's done some awesome work for us here. Alex Holloway is serving in the AmeriCorps right now, and he's hosted at the Triangle J Council of Governments. So when we kicked off our strategy here over the summer, our economic development strategy, a key kind of short-term goal was getting our arms around available commercial properties and also really mapping out all the businesses and understanding where they are across the 8 districts here that we have in Clayton. So Jen and I get a handful of calls every week from businesses that either are looking to expand or looking to move into Clayton and do business here, and having an opportunity to have that information in one place wasn't there before. We had some of it, but not all of it. So this tool has allowed us to really put that together here. So what Alex has done, with a lot of help from Ben Painter and the planning department, is we now have mapped in an ArcGIS system as many of the properties and businesses that we can find. Alex himself put almost 600 dots in a map, which is the address, the business name, we've got commercial real estate information, all of that. So now what we've been able to do when clients come is they call us, we can tour them around the city, we can show the different districts, we can pull up a commercial real estate flyer, we can get them to the commercial brokers or to the property owners. So it's really been an awesome tool as we're looking to grow jobs, keep jobs here in Clayton, and we really couldn't have done that without all of Alex's work out here. He's been working with us since November, is that right? Yeah. And just really wanted to recognize him, recognize Ben in the planning department, and also our partners at the Triangle J Council of Governments for their contribution. So with that, I'd want to just give an opportunity for everyone to recognize him, give him a round of applause, and if he's got maybe just a couple words, and then we'll let you get on with your night. So thank you. There we go.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me come out and help and be a part of the town's efforts here. I was mostly along Highway 70 and NC 42, so if I was down, I saw, storefront or employee owner, usually just made a point just to say hi, and for the most part, everybody was really excited or just supportive of the project, so thank you again for letting me be a part of those efforts.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all your good work. 600 dots totally tells me you're not ADD. That is a true quality and trait. That's awesome. Town of Clayton appreciates your good work. Thank you, Patrick. All right, up next on the agenda is the 2021 Sculpture Trail selection. And I'll give the floor to Sarah Perricone, who is our chair of the Clayton Art Advisory Board. Really requested that she get put on the agenda early because the rest of the meeting was so exciting she didn't know she could stand.
That was it. I just, I can't handle too much excitement, you know that. But anyway, I really am pleased to be here, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and staff. I have the pleasure of showing you tonight the selection 7, well, actually it's 6, and I'll explain that in a minute, sculptures that we will have this year. But first, if you'll allow me, the board would like to make some thank yous. First to the mayor and JD. Without you two, this would not have happened this year, and we are so grateful for it. You just really got behind us. And then for bringing in a consultant, the project manager, I could just call him all kinds of great names now, the terrific things that he has done. And it's well known, the Public Art Advisory Board has done this for years, but Stacy Beard was the one that has run this project, the whole thing. So when Stacy left, we wanted to do it, but we are like deer in the headlights, like, okay, what do we do? So you're bringing in Jim Davis, and I'll explain later just briefly who he is, was a tremendous thing for us, and we just really appreciate it. Avery, we want to thank for taking time off of his work in order to be on the panel, which I know you were, it was a difficult job. It really was, and we appreciate you taking the time. And Steve Blasco walks on water as far as I'm concerned. He has been tremendous working with Jim. They had to figure out how they could put them in. We had some pretty big sculptures this year. The Public Art Advisory Board decided to go a little bit crazy, and it's fun. We wanted something fun for the public. But he has worked with Jim to get, where can we put them because of the size, how can it be done? And he is just there every single minute, and I just am very grateful to him. The other thing is, the other people we want to thank is Edwin Jackson and Caterpillar, because some of these sculptures are so big that they need a crane. And so here came Caterpillar. They said, well, if we don't have something, we will find you one. And they did, and with a professional driver. So very pleased about that. And last but definitely not least is Kim Moffett and Heidi. I swear to God, don't ever get rid of those two women. Honestly, they're with us all year, and I don't know if people realize that we do more than just the sculpture trail. We have 4 major projects going right now, and couldn't do them without these two ladies being right there for us all the time. Terrific. You have some great people here in Clayton to work with. Jim Davis, just briefly, has a degree in environmental design and is the founder and president of Sculpture in the Landscape. It's a North Carolina firm. Since 2008, he has incorporated skills working with outdoor, closely with artists, designers, developers, art councils, municipalities, and corporations. in identifying and placing outdoor art. Jim has worked with Goldsboro since 2015 in placing sculpture in their downtown streetscape project and helped initiate Fayetteville's, and he actually started Carrie's exhibit over there. And so he has brought all of his skills here. In fact, we called Goldsboro just to double check. It's always good to check your references. And they said they couldn't have done it without him. Well, I can tell you that we couldn't have done it without him either. So, thank you all for everything you've done. And Heidi, you ready? Said, what could I do without Heidi and Kim? Anyway, here they are. Well, I should tell you quickly that when Jim sent, he sent applications out across the whole country, all right? We got 13 states represented and 86 sculptures. But I had to bring that down a little bit because I could imagine if the panel had to deal with 86. So we got that down to 64. But that panel worked really, really hard to get these final. So, yep, the first one is, that's all right. Red Rhythm. Now this is 12, it's a painted aluminum. Jim Davis has actually seen this piece and said it is amazing, just gorgeous. It's 12 feet by 7, you can see that, by 6 by 8. And it's going to be noticed, as you can tell. Now, where this piece is going to be, now, Jim worked this out with Steve Blasco, because you have to have them in a certain place because of the fittings and where they'll be allowed. This will be on the corner in Town Square. This will be on the corner of Main Street and Fayetteville, right there. And everybody will be able to see that. This is, the artist here is Rob Lawrenson. He's from Middleborough, Massachusetts. And we have people coming from Massachusetts, New York City, Missouri, and Florida. So that's pretty exciting too. Next one. This is Continuum. As you can see, this is 13 feet high by 6 feet by 5 feet, all stainless steel. This is done by Nathan Pierce from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And that will be on the corner of O'Neill and Main Street, just right there at the stoplight. So it'll be great. What also is going to happen with this one, Avery, because of your great suggestion, this one is going to be dedicated to the fire department. There's the ladder there, and it's a beautiful piece, and that's going to be worked out for them so that that can be devoted to them. The next one is, this is a biggie. Here's Midsummer, 17 feet by 10 feet by 6 feet. This is going in the roundabout. This piece will never be missed. Go about that roundabout, could be a mile away and you can see this piece. This is actually from Hannah Gibran from Grimsland, North Carolina. We've had a lot of Hannah's pieces in the past. He does a lot of fun stuff, bright and cheery, and this is really going to be. The nice thing about this, back to my favorite, Steve Blasco, is there is going to be lighting around this now. They're putting lighting in, so at night this will be lit up. We're working at seeing where we can do this with more than just one of the sculptures. Okay? The next one is Some Like It Hot. Now this is a kinetic piece. What I mean by that, excuse me, is that it will move. The top part of it, when the wind comes, it spins. All right? This is from Mike Roig from Carrboro, North Carolina. It's 7.5 feet tall by 4.5 feet in diameter. This is going in Horne Square, front and center, right by the road there. Okay. The next one, this is Valkyrie. This is the one I thought the whole panel was probably doing the minute they were done after selecting, trying to make choices that day. They were finally finished doing it. But But this is from Jack Howard Potter from New York City, and it's 9 feet 7 inches, 9 feet tall, 9 feet 7 inches wide, and 8 feet deep. Now that is a big piece. That has to be taken apart to bring it down here. That's going in Horne Square. If you're looking straight onto Horne Square, it's going to be the back planter corner back there by Lombard Street. Okay, Steve was able to fit it in there. The next one, a question of balance. This is from Charles Pilkey from Mint Hill, North Carolina. It's 10 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, and that will be located at the library. Here's the Guardian. This is Christian Happel from Wimauma, Florida. I think I'm pronouncing that right, I hope. I don't mean to insult them. It's 9.5 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and this will be at the community center. So it's a good large piece for that. Now the next one and the last one is one you might be already familiar with because it's been in Horne Square for the last year. And it's a difficult piece to get out, but anyway, Jim Davis called the artist and said, well, what would we have to do to be able to keep it there? And he gifted it to the town for the next year. He did not charge the town anything because he just loves bringing his pieces here. So that is it. I think it's going to be exciting. I really do. I think that we've picked, well, I didn't pick anything. The panel picked some beautiful pieces that I think a lot of the community will really enjoy seeing. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank
Does
you.
anyone have any questions?
Questions or comments for Sarah?
I'm sorry, what?
I asked if they had questions or comments.
No? Well, good. Well, thank you very much. I
Granis.
appreciate it.
Sir, I just want to thank you and your team for what you do, especially with respect to these sculptures. I don't recall how many years we've been doing this, but it seems to get better each year. And I just want to acknowledge you and your team. And I know that the council has to approve this sort of thing, but we're the ones that defer to you and the talents of your team, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I may be chairman, but we are a team. I just happen to have that name next to me, and we really do work as a team. And I'm very lucky to have that, and you all are lucky to have the people that we have on there. So thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Great job. Okay, up next is the Life Saving Award with Acting Police Chief Greg Tart.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Town Manager, Madam Clerk, and Council. My name is Greg Tart. I'm the Acting Police Chief here in Clayton. I'm here this evening to recognize 2 police officers for their outstanding effort on a recent case that they were involved in. But before I do that, let me say this. Later this year, I will begin my 33rd year in law enforcement. During that time, I've had the honor and privilege to work with many outstanding law enforcement agencies across the state and even out of state on many different levels. I've also been fortunate to work with many dedicated law enforcement professionals in my career, both men and women. And what I have learned over the last 3 months of being the acting police chief and doing a lot of listening and a lot of observing is that the men and women of the Clayton Police Department fit into the group I just described. Folks who take pride and compassion in what they do and go into every situation hoping to leave it with a positive outcome or result. And by the nature of what we do, that's not always possible. Are we perfect? No. Can we be better? Absolutely. We must always strive to be better tomorrow than we were today. These men and women do great work every day, such as the incident I'm about to describe to you. And most of the time, you never hear about it. Many times you hear about the negatives, but I can assure you our positives greatly outweigh any negatives we may have. I am proud to be a member of this department and to serve beside each one of them every day. A few weeks ago on a Friday evening, January 22nd, Clayton Police Department responded to a 911 call in reference to an unresponsive male and possible overdose victim at a residence on North Smith Street in Clayton. Clayton police officers Chad Mallett and Carlos Lerma were on duty at the time and responded. Clayton Fire Department and Johnston County EMS were also dispatched and responded as well. When officers Mallett and Lerma arrived at the residence, they encountered a female attempting chest compressions on an unresponsive male laying in the yard beside a vehicle. Officer Lerma began immediately administering CPR by conducting chest compressions on the unresponsive male, and Officer Mallett retrieved Narcan from his patrol vehicle and proceeded to administer a dose into the nostrils of the male subject. As they continued to work on the subject, Clayton Fire and Johnston County EMS arrived and took over the resuscitation efforts. As a result, this male subject regained consciousness and was subsequently transported to the hospital where he survived. I believe the actions of these two young men helped save this man's life. And that's not to take away the efforts of the Clayton Fire Department and Johnston County EMS, who also responded and did a great job as well. Later that night, I received a message from the fire department acknowledging the efforts of these two young men. It was also described to me as a team effort by all three agencies, the police department, the fire department, and EMS. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So tonight, I am presenting Officers Chad Mallett, Carlos Lerma, with the department's life-saving award. If they will come up. I'll read the award. It is hereby awarded Officer Mallett and Officer Lerma is hereby awarded the life-saving ribbon. Their actions led to the prolonging of the life of a victim. Their efforts made a significant contribution to not only the victim in this case, but also the enhancement of the department and its operations. For diligence in the performance of their duties above normal expectations, and for distinguishing themselves by displaying a sense of loyalty and dedication to the agency in keeping with the high standards of professionalism. Given this 15th day of February, the year 2021. Officer Mallett, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to tell you, that's going to be hard to follow. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We appreciate your service to the town of Clayton. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your leadership.
Thanks, sir.
Move along with, next up is our public hearings. The first public hearing is 2020-113 PDD Ashcroft 2.
Good evening, Samantha Woolen-Weber, Planning Director. I would like to continue items A, B, and C into the March 1st Town Council meeting, please.
These items.
Yes.
Continue the items, please, until the March 1st council meeting for the Ashcroft 2 rezoning, the plan development master plan, and the developer's agreement.
So the request from staff is to continue this to the March 1st meeting. Any questions or comments for staff? If not, consent or a motion to continue.
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue these three items until the March 1st, 2021 meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, then we can jump right into chapter 160D with all feet and hands.
Again, Samantha Woolen-Weber, Planning Director. This public hearing tonight is for the 160D. It's commonly referred to as the mandated changes by the general statutes. And those had to be updated by this summer. And as you know, this was continued from the last town council meeting. A work session was held last Wednesday, and we went page turning through the entire document pretty much and had some good input from council. I do have one point of clarification that I want to make sure the council and staff are on the same page from the last meeting, and that was regarding the variance. And the one variance that the council wanted to see was for the access requirements out of Chapter 400. That's the only one that I had mentioned.
There was some discussion from Raz that maybe we needed a Board of Adjustment to set as kind of judge and jury over all these matters. And there was earlier discussion about the town council would like to retain this one. Samantha and I remembered it one way. Raz remembered it different. So we were asking what the pleasure of the council was tonight. Do you want to turn all of these variances over to the Board of Adjustment, or would you like to keep this one under the town council?
I'm good with the Board of Adjustments. I'm good with the board.
Any other thoughts with?
I would be in alignment with Councilman Bunn. I think to defer this to a, unbiased group or whatever that can just handle all of this type of decision-making for the council and for the planning board would be one less challenge for the town council.
All right, so if a motion is made tonight to approve the ordinance amendment, you would clarify by having that changed, so that text could be changed before it's codified.
Whoever makes a motion to approve 160D, make sure that that change is reflected, that the access agreement will go to the Board of Adjustment.
And then also, that was added in there, the one other change from last meeting was the Board of Adjustment. There is a further action on your agenda tonight to reinstate the Board of Adjustment. And so we included that language in the Chapter 155 that was needed. And I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone has.
Questions or comments for staff? All right, if not, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone wish to speak on this matter? And no one wishing to speak, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the council for their deliberation. Mr. Holder.
I move we adopt this ordinance on the provision that it is reviewed for clerical errors and grammatical errors prior to being finalized.
I think we need that motion to state that we want to change the language regarding the access waiver variance be put to the Board of Adjustment, if we can just add that.
So moved.
Okay. We have a, excuse me, we have a motion for approval with the exception and inclusion of the change of the variance going to the Board of Adjustment.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. I want to thank everybody before we jump on to the next thing for all the hard work on this. This has been a tremendous effort on everyone's part, and I'm appreciative to staff and to the council, because this is really something that the state kind of sent our way, but we have to make it be able to work in the town of Clayton, and the amount of time this council has devoted to this I think really does showcase their commitment to the town of Clayton as we continue to develop and grow. So thank you. Up next is the amendment to the comprehensive list of fees and charges as related to 160D.
Good evening. The fee schedule had to be updated in accordance with the 160D adoption, and this was also continued from the last meeting. The main thing was that there used to be a minor and a major site plan. Now there is one site plan category, so that's one amount of $500. We have benchmarked. That fee it did increase for minors, but since, again, there's only one type of site plan, it just matches what was a major site plan. We have benchmarked, and it is in alignment, if not less, than our neighboring communities. And the other thing was the category had to change from plain development to conditional zoning, and then we added a conditional zoning category for the rezoning changes. And this will be implemented for all the submittals for the March 1st submittal.
Awesome. Questions or comments for staff? All right, if not, this has been noted as a public hearing. Is there anyone wish to speak on this? All right, no one wishing to speak. I'll turn it over to the council for their deliberation.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-02-03.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption of the ordinance 2021-02-03. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, next under old business is land acquisition easements.
Excuse me, Town Council, Mayor, Joshua Baird, Town Engineer. The item before you tonight is related to easement acquisition related to two town infrastructure projects. Both projects here, Little Creek Sewer Outfall Replacement and an electric project, South Feeder Electric Tie. Both of these projects have been designed and are ready to go to construction. The design of these projects took into account property owners and looking to minimize any impacts, to utilize existing easements, to utilize existing corridors. The Little Creek Sewer Outfall Project is a project to replace an aging outfall pipe as well as increase the size for additional capacity. The South Feeder Electric Project is to improve the town's electrical redundancy and resiliency, which is also, it's ready for construction as well. Several easements associated with these have been obtained. We had several successes in negotiating with property owners that needed easements. Most of these are, again, in a similar corridor, just along existing easements and along existing electric lines and sewer easements. Unfortunately, a few of them we have been unable to obtain. Several of these dating back, these negotiations working with property owners to May of 2020. And town staff, attorneys, and a land acquisition firm have worked to try to come to a settlement, but we've been unable to. Some include appraisals that have been performed, and we've looked and see, and offers have been made, but still no settlement has been reached. The existing, the remaining easements are shown here in the red and the green, just general vicinity. This is not to scale, but you can see the electric easement coming down 42. This is 42 West by Alta Mobile Home Park, coming down towards Little Creek, and then the sewer easements are just roughly shown there in green. There's a total of 3 properties. These are along existing Duke Energy lines as well as sewer easements. The area also roughly here is a majority floodplain and trying to utilize, again, those existing corridors with electric and sewer infrastructure. Timing for these projects here is both critical. For the electric line, it's important that we, as we continue to grow, that we provide the needed redundancy and resiliency for our electric system. On the sewer project, there's additional construction projects that are on the heels of this one related to the new wastewater treatment plant and converting Little Creek into a pump station. So timing is critical. Both are ready to go, including the next agenda item, which is approval and award of a construction contract for the Little Creek outfall project. At this time, town staff requests council to approve the resolution authorizing staff and attorneys to proceed with condemnation of the remaining easements on the 3 properties. With an approval of that, town staff and attorneys would continue to try to negotiate and try to come to a settlement before anything is filed. So we would continue to do that, and we ask your approval of this item tonight. I'll take any questions.
Awesome.
Note for council, we've tried several different times to make this come through, and we can't make it happen. So I know you all hate condemnation, but I think at this point in the life of these projects and with what type of easement it is, we need to proceed. So.
All right, questions or comments for staff? All right, thank you, Joshua. Turn it over to council for their discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we adopt Resolution 2021-08.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution 2021-08. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next is the award construction contract, Little Creek Outfall Project.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Joshua Baird. This item is related regarding the Little Creek Outfall Project. On January 28th, town staff opened sealed bids for the project. A total of 7 bids were received. 2 of the lowest bids were from contractors that did not have adequate licensing per North Carolina General Statutes 8710, and they were deemed non-responsive. Those contractors, they have been notified in writing, and the next lowest bid was Providence Construction Services. Per Town of Clayton purchasing policies and general statutes, formal bid procedures must be followed and includes award of this contract by Town Council. Staff and the consultant engineer who is here have reviewed the bids and recommend awarding the contract at the base bid with alternate 1B to Providence Construction Services. Total contract price would become $1,018,659.85, and this is in the existing project budget that was created early in 2020 for the project. The proposed contract is based on standard EJCDC construction documents and has been reviewed by the town attorney. Contract time is 270 days to substantial completion and 300 days to final, and it does include an intermediate contract time for work inside the fence at existing Little Creek Waste Reclamation Facility. Staff requests town council authorize town manager or designee to execute the construction contract and any change orders required to deliver the project. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right, questions or comments? All right, if not, I'll turn it over to council for their discussion. Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-09.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution 2021-09. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next on the agenda is the AMI program update.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I will lead off a little intro for Ann Game, who will give the body of this update. 2 things in the initial comments as she comes up. One is there are 2 parts to our AMI discussions tonight with respect to electric. I'm going to be speaking about in my comments tonight the calls and emails that some of us have gotten about high electric bills. And so we're reserving those discussions till later, to my comment time. Ann's discussion will be primarily about where we are with the whole AMI program, which is about 18,000 meters, water, sewer, or water meters and electric meters. And the other thing that I will give you as a note from an operational standpoint, there are people in every jurisdiction that don't like the electronic AMI meters. They work much like a cell phone will work or a computer will work, sending the signals up to a fixed network and then batting them to the town hall for their processed. There are some people have concern about electromagnetic fields. We're down to 7 people that have showed concerns at this point. Our contractor has pulled off for now. We'll be coming back in a month to clean up the rest of the meters. And at that time, the operational decision has been made to switch everybody to the AMI meter. And so I just want to inform you guys, I know we've had discussions about that in the past, but that will be happening. So you may get some phone calls about those, but from an operational standpoint, we need to do that. So with that, I'll give it to Ann, and she may have more details there too.
So thank you for letting me be here tonight. I just wanted to give you an update. So late 2019 was when this project really kicked off, and the town at that point in time had made the decision on what meters we were going to go with, what vendor we were going to go with. So the town started on all new bills, or if there was a meter change out, we started putting those new meters in ourselves. The network wasn't up yet, so network installation was completed in January of 2020. It was tested exactly a year ago in February of 2020, and that's when we brought in the contractor, US Bronco, to come in to actually start the big project and start changing the meters out. And then COVID hit, and we made the decision to go ahead. We weren't going to let COVID stop us from this project. So we went ahead, and at that point, we focused on water meters, getting those installed. So that really started hot and heavy in roughly March of last year. And you know, again, you all, many of you have talked to me about your meter, have learned about your meter. To date, like JD said, we have over 18,000 water and electric meters deployed that are reading off the system, that we are now getting daily reads off of. As of February 2nd, our installers left Clayton. They are pretty much finished with the project. What this is going to give my group, Dale's group, and the water department time to do is look at what's left to install on the project. We're still not 100% deployed, but we're down to a handful of meters. On the water side, the reason a meter wouldn't have been installed, it could be that a curb stop is broken, a lay length is incorrect, that has got to be ordered. So that could be a reason that we are not finished with the water deployment. On the electric side, Dale's group has not slowed down. I mean, we are installing some meters that demand meters, or mainly the commercial size meters that Dale's group is getting to finish out the project. I think on the electric side, we have less than 100 left to do on the project. So again, the project is getting ready to close out. One of the things that we've done, and I included on your desk tonight, is the information about the customer portal. One of the big features of this whole project to me was putting some of that opportunity back into a customer's hands to see how their lifestyles impact their utility consumption. Mr. Holder and I talked earlier tonight, you know, we want customers to sign up for that portal. I checked Friday. We started with just a postcard mailed out to customers that gave them instructions, and it linked them to that document that they could go through step by step. As of Friday, we had 170 customers that were signed up and using the portal. And that's what I want them doing, and I want them calling and asking questions about the portal. You know, I feel very good about the project and where the project is. We're going to be signing off and finishing the project right on schedule with I believe we had said May. I think we'll be finished a little ahead of time. So if there are any questions, be more than happy to answer them.
Comments for staff? All right. Thank you very much, Ann Game. We appreciate your good work. All right, up next is the Parks and Recreation Portal partial reopening.
I'll proceed with that one. I don't see Scott in the audience right now. If council will remember, we have talked about a month ago about partially reopening both our Parks and Rec Department and our library. What we've fallen out with is to save the baseball season and to also be responsive to some of our seniors based on the plan we've looked at is to begin partial reopening of the Parks and Rec Department on March 1st. Joy and I have talked about the library and possibly opening it up either March the 15th or April 1st, depending on what the status of the county is at the time. They had one time wanted to go together. And if you remember last fall, they were both partially open together while everything else was closed. But in this case, we'll get Parks and Rec out a little bit in front, a few weeks out in front of the library. And then set to look at Town Hall sometime between April 1st and May 1st on some kind of partial reopening versus the plan that we had earlier this year, last fall, when you guys approved that reopening plan. We will bring that back to you to refresh and to update before we would open up any of the bigger facilities to the public. And one of the key things we're looking for is to make sure that the parking lot is substantially finished before we open up this building again, so we don't get too much traffic. We want to be protective of COVID, but we also don't want too much traffic to flood out the availability and the security of this building as well. So I don't know that I necessarily need a adoption or approval, but I did want to make you aware and hear if there are any concerns with the partial reopening of either March 1st or possibly March 15th as I get with Scott to make sure that his plans are acceptable to Jeff and to me for reopening.
For the update, questions or comments for the manager? All right, thank you, JD. Up next, under new business, is the establishment of the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, this is an item that goes with 160D. Kimberly Moffett, our clerk, has gotten you some data, I think, that's in your package. Currently, I think the major decision here will be, I believe, well, there's two decisions. One is the adoption of the ordinance as it stands to reactivate that board. One of the things that I had been talking about is that we had been populating the board with 7 members, 4 from in town and 3 from the ETJ. And at one time we had alternates. I would open it up for you guys to discuss maybe going with 5 members of the Board of Adjustment and go back to 2 alternates, so there's always enough people to vote, because these are 4/5 vote, but to have 5 members that are always there and have your in-town membership to 3 members, your ETJ to 2, and an alternate from 1 from the ETJ and 1 from the town. So I throw that out, but you have the document in front of you, and it is your pleasure with how many members you would like on the Board of Adjustment.
I think that sounds good. Questions or comments from council?
So this document says you're going to have 7 members with 4 residents and 3 ETJs, is that correct?
Correct.
And
my alternative proposal to you would be to have 5 members, 3 from the town, 2 from the ETJ, and to have an alternate from 1 from the town and 1 from the, so you still have 7 members. But you still set yourself up, if somebody misses, you'll still have 5 voting members where you can.
I got you. So basically, you're going to just say we got 7 members with alternates. 5 members without.
You've got to get 4 out of 5 votes to have.
So we just have to reword this a little bit.
Yes.
Councilmember Bunn, what I would ask is if you do want to adopt that ordinance, I would ask that we get a motion to adopt the ordinance with amending the language to read that we will have 5 members and 2 alternates.
Right, that's what I was trying to clarify here. I'm good.
Well, it's y'all's pleasure. Council, I believe council has a comment. Jim?
I have a question. In terms of implementation, will we come back at another meeting and make those appointments after this ordinance is adopted? Is that the thinking?
Yes, and I was after the motion. Kimberly and I have talked about advertising this tomorrow and closing it as soon as maybe 2 weeks if we have enough members, and then have this board reconstitute that board at a future meeting. And Samantha and I discussed that the planning board may have to do one more round of adjustment, but to get this board in action as quick as possible. So maybe inside of a month, maybe 6 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Holder?
You're going to have to appoint the members with staggering terms too, so that they don't all come off and come back on at the same time.
Correct.
All right, anyone else? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-02-04 with the amendment from 7 members to 5 members with 2 alternates.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the adoption of ordinance 2021-02-04. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, now we're going to jump on over to staff reports, beginning with the manager.
Okay, 3 items tonight for me, 2 longer than the first one. First one, I'd like to give a shout out or praise to our wastewater treatment staff. As you guys know, we have a very leaky wastewater treatment plant. Joshua's project was to start patching the headworks to that plant or the pipe leading into it. Part of the reason for doing the big project to replace it is because it is so old and leaky. But your staff is down there, they're working double shifts, they've got a person out, and they've really been working double time in this rain for the last few days and will continue to do so. So I just want to give them recognition and praise for all the work that they're doing down at the plant as we speak. So it's the first item. The second item goes to start off by again saying, and we saw this earlier tonight, that Clayton is a town that supports its police department. Our frontline officers of that department are doing a good job, and I think the public sees that every day. And as I told the public last time, whenever you see a police officer, they do deserve our gratitude and thanks from everyone in the town for the job that they're doing. We started a administrative investigation back in October, and anything we've done as part of that investigation has been to make our police department better, more stable, more sustainable, and I would say a better place to work 6 months from now than it was 6 months ago. 1 month ago, exactly 1 month ago, I told you guys that the draft report of that investigation had been delivered to me. At that time, I also said it would take us about 60 days to finish the completion of the report. 30 days in, halfway now, I can tell you that report will be completed and our work done within the next 60 days, probably within the next 15 days. So we were running on schedule with that. We initiated this investigation. There was a call of multiple complaints with slightly different forms of misbehavior and mismanagement in the work environment. At the most general level, the draft report indicates an environment where certain forms of misbehavior were tolerated more for some people than for others, and that certain management practices were not implemented as consistently in some cases for some rather than for others. We have worked this investigative process with structure and discipline because that's what we do. Greg joined us about 3 months ago. He's a former SBI agent. I'm an engineer by training, so structure and discipline is what we do. We've chosen not to be embroiled in some rhetoric that we could have been and to quietly seek the truth, because at the end of the day, the truth is what makes us right for continual improvement and to be a better place to work. I want to thank tonight a few of the key people. It's easy for me to sit up here and talk about it, but first I want to talk about 3 different sets of attorneys. Jim Cawley, our town attorney, who has really jumped in and been phenomenal to work with his experience, all the years of his experience working with local government. Katie Hartzog, who's special counsel from the North Carolina League of Municipalities, and Ronnie Mitchell, special counsel in police matters that I retained to help us specifically for legal issues related to police departments. I also like to thank USISS, which has been our investigation firm that we hired. If you remember, when I approached you guys in the fall, I wanted to find an outside firm that could give us an independent and thorough evaluation, and that's what we've got. Both President David Graham, who was a lead investigator, and support investigator Catherine Schrimreef have done a great job. We also retained consultant and former Charlotte Mecklenburg HR lead, Kamala Emmanuel, to help us provide advice on the HR side of this stuff. I also want to thank our own Kimberly Moffett for the job she's done. She's been our clerk, and there's 3 people that you guys hire, Kimberly, me, and Jim, and all three of us have worked phenomenally as a team to keep things going together throughout this period of time. Don't want to leave out Steve Bizzle and the Johnston County Sheriff's Department. They've come in quietly and helped me on several fronts when we needed help. And then finally, much gratitude, he's in the back room, to Greg Tart, who 3 months ago agreed to step into gap for his hometown and bring his great experience, wisdom, and leadership to this process. I'll also say to the Town Council that I'm very grateful for you guys, and I know our whole team is. You made sure that I had the best resources available, our team did, to evaluate this, and that you had your own discipline to let the professionals do their jobs. I had several comments from this team that was brought in that I was really fortunate. We were really fortunate to have this kind of council that really provided those things to us and let us do our work. 4 big decisions I think that was along the way that had to be made we can look back at. The first was whether to do this investigation at all. And that was a concern I had not long after I took over, that 3 complaints, were they a trend or were they isolated? And so what began as a very simple investigation into there led to a little bit longer investigation than we first thought. But that decision to make that investigation ended up being a big decision. The second was the decision to place the former chief on leave with pay, and then another decision to replace, to bring in an acting chief from the outside to take the helm over the last 3 months. The fourth decision, which is upon us now, is how to move forward as we wrap up the investigation as it comes to a close. I can't tell you much because these are personnel matters about what we're talking about, but I can report today that several people that I believe are the most culpable in this matter are no longer employed with the town of Clayton. There are also others in the chain of command that probably have some accountability, and that's what we're evaluating now. And they're going to probably be in areas like reporting, investigating, or otherwise addressing matters that should have been addressed. But again, these are personnel matters, and I can't speak much more than what I've just told you about that. Can I also say, as I told you last month, that some employees have been more impacted than others, but that many of our staff in the police department have been stressed in some way. I've said it over and over, being a police officer is a stressful knob jock it is without us putting more stress from a management standpoint. So we're working with all of our staff as we heal and move forward, and we're making good progress every day, every week as we've gone along. Much of what we do now for our staff is important, very important, especially for those who have been stressed and impacted. But from the rest of the world, it's probably pretty much boring management stuff. We need to reestablish some of our policies and procedures. We need to improve the inconsistency in our internal affairs investigation process. We need to retrain and train our officers. We do need some more structural reorganization. And more generally, we need to treat everyone in the workplace the way we would expect to be treated. The good news is that we've been doing that for about 3 months since Greg Tart joined us. The environment has been improving weekly, as I said, and our department now is already much better than it was just 6 months ago. That healing, though, and there's healing to do, will take time. It's more than just a month process. I do not intend to discuss much more about where we've been or the details of the investigation, most of which I cannot discuss. It is more important, though, that we focus now on where we're all going. For that matter, where we've already started going and where we've been going. In the coming weeks, you will hear more about how we've been doing to improve our internal work environment, how we are focusing on the substance of what we do rather than the form or the appearance of what we do, and addressing the true crimes, types of crime for Clayton. And then our focus has been on working better with other sister law enforcement agencies in the region. 2 things as I close. One is I'll start with, again, the frontline officers of the Clayton Police Department are doing a good job, a real good job. As a whole, they want to put this chapter behind them, they want to do their jobs, and they want to be even better police officers than they were today than they were yesterday. They do deserve a better management system and a better work environment, and we've been giving that to them. Our Clayton police officers deserve the gratitude and thanks of everyone in this community. The last thing I'll say is to the entire law enforcement community. Clayton is a great place to raise a family. It's It's a great place to live, to work, and to spend your career as a police officer. If you're good at what you do, and you may not be getting the support that you want somewhere else, it's a good time to join the Clayton Police Department. We're on the move, we're on the rise, we're reestablishing ourselves where we were a few years ago, and you'll be glad that you'll join our team. And so with that, I have not much more to say, but I will take any comments or questions from the council before I move into the electric system.
Questions or comments? Mr. Thompson.
I just want to echo what the manager said about Chief Tart coming in and really giving his all to the town that he grew up in. And, you know, really that hometown pride is strong. And it's apparent in everything he does that he's proud of our town. He's proud of our department that has always been recognized as a leader. And I'm very thankful that he came in when he did and that he's really stepped up to the plate, because it's everybody has faced a lot of hard, long hours recently. And I'm most appreciative of the Chief Tart.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very appreciative myself to our citizens and the public in general, because this has been ongoing for a while, as all of you know. And, you know, the town of Clayton, we have to make sure that we are following our procedures step by step. And I think that your patience on this particular topic is very much appreciated by the mayor and this council. And as the manager spoke, more information on this topic will be forthcoming in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So thank you for that. All right, moving right along, Mr. Manager.
Okay, doesn't get much easier. We're going to talk about electric bills, high electric bills now. And so yeah, the conversion, replacement of electric meters is a big deal, because that's people's money and that's what they pay every month. And they watch it closely because we don't think our habits change much over time. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but we're all set to our bills. Any of us that have raised family or grandkids know how that is. So there have been a number of concerns expressed by our citizens, and you guys know those, that electric bills are substantially higher as a result of our conversion from our old style of radio read meters, electric meters, to our new AMI smart meters. Some of those customers have reported bills of $100 or more above their expectations. Obviously, this type of increase places an unusual burden on families. So there are a number of factors that I've written down, because I've gone through a few of these before. This isn't my first gig with meters. Number of factors that cause higher than normal electric bills, and additional factors associated with meter conversion that cause a short-term spike. Okay, and I'm gonna go through a few of those, as boring as it is, and you can have these from the tape. I've asked our staff, though, in the past week to focus on issues, those causal factors that we can control, not that the customers control. We need to get our own house right first, and we need to make sure we're sure with our data and the things we're doing. And they've responded very well to that. I'll also say that when you lay these schedules out, and these schedules were laid out more than a year in advance, we also picked the time to change electric meters in the 2-month period that is one of the peak periods of the year. So anything you see as far as a percentage increase feels sometimes larger than it would if you did it in, say, April or May, before you really got your air conditioner or your heat cranked up. So couple things we're doing before completing the meter installation project, and this is what Ann said. One, our program management company, and we hired a third party, they're doing the quality assurance checks in the next month that Ann talked about, to make sure that the town receives the properly installed and functioning meters and those operating right from our contractor. And again, as Ann mentioned, that contractor will be back in a month to make any adjustments or changes and finish the work. The town will also hire a third-party company outside the management company, because our management company's been there the whole time. They're a great company, but they've been there the whole time. But we'll hire an independent team of people that I wanted to do from the start to make sure we have another level of quality assurance on all the meters, both water and power. So that's kind of the general program. Town's also doing several things now. We've been doing this especially over the past week to address these higher than normal electric bills. One, a statistical review of the electric meter data trends over the last 5 Decembers and 5 Januaries. And so we've tried to look at all our meter data, electric meter data, and say just how does that trend look for those meters that have been around for the last 5 years. A portion of those new meters have been tested as they sit in place. So the new meters have been tested for validity of those meters. And then a portion of the old meters, I think there's been 6 of them that we've taken in pairs to take the old meter and pulled the new meter off, and we've put those side by side on a test table, and we've compared them side by side to make sure the old meter and the new meter aren't performing any differently. Okay, and that's done by a different company than does the base testing of the meters that we've traditionally used. It's a new company we're using out of Garner, so we've brought in people to double test meters. We've also asked, or will be asking, the meter company, Census, to verify that their meters, because this is a computer system, to make sure the signals that are being sent are received properly by the system. Now, we have bought one of the best meters, one of the best set of meters and the best meter system in the world, in the country. It's highly regarded. I don't think there's anything wrong with our meters necessarily. I don't think there's anything wrong with the electronic system that it reports under. However, we will be looking into that and getting validation of that to make sure that's not one of our weak spots. We're also reviewing our process of converting the smart meter data in the network to our billing system. So the data has to be sent, received, and then converted into billing. And we're going to make sure that process somehow has not come out of alignment. Normally it would be meter number to meter number, and it should be a straightforward process, but those that have been through data migration before, sometimes there are snafus, and that's what we're looking at. Those are really the 7 things we're doing, between the 5 to address the problem and the 2 we do to validate the problem. There's 5 other things, observations I'll make to say about meter conversion programs. One is, it's not uncommon for the data. You've got to take the old meter offline in the middle of the cycle a lot of times. You have to make a manual read of that data, key it in, put the new system in, and that data, those 2 meter readings are added together. If people have what we call fat fingers or transpose a number or something, that first month may be skewed because the data got entered wrong. That's kind of like estimating a meter, if you've heard of estimating a meter, but because the next month you'll catch that usually. So after 2 or 3 months, this tends to level out, but it's not uncommon. Sometimes the new meter data is associated with the wrong meter, wrong address, wrong account. That happens too. Sometimes it's associated with the wrong customer. Sometimes that data is not transferred to the billing cycle, as I said. And in our case, this is a big one, the billing cycles vary. So with our old radio read system, we drove the site in a truck and then we read the signals, and we could only do it once a month. Those billing cycles varied from about 28 days to 32 days. And so given your last month, you could vary by 10% just because we didn't read on Friday or Saturday or on a holiday from month to month. Now, the new AMI meters will make that where we can fix it on an even day. So it can be an even 30-day or 31-day cycle. But because of the transfer of putting the meters in, our system has seen a 28-day billing cycle to a 37-day billing cycle, which means you're seeing about a 20% bump one wrong way if it's a 37-day cycle, and then the next month you could drop down to a 28-day cycle or less, and you're going to see the bump the other way. That's not real good for customer confidence when they see their bills moving around. But again, that should level out over time as well. But sometimes it takes a month or 2 for that to get dialed in. So a couple things that we've found so far that I can report, and some of this is premature. It will take us another week or 2 to get this. The one thing that I would note is there's 7,000 electric meters in the town. And so a 1% variation or error rate in any of these factors equates to 70 customers. That will feel like a lot of complaints if 70 customers are calling in. So that's not to belittle the comments, but 1% error rate, and 1% is not unreasonable, could be out there, and those are the 70 accounts we need to look at. I mentioned before that we do see this cycle of 28 to 37 days, which could have been some of the initial setups that happened in December and January. We have pulled 2 sets of data, 300 random residential meters, and I think the good news, and this is good, I know Commissioner Holder and Ms. Grannis love their budgets, the total amount of electricity that we have sold in each of the 5 years has not varied significantly. So we're not seeing a total on the first 300 customers, and today the most recent numbers, we didn't see a big ramp up to say that everybody's bill was going up by $100 or $200. We were selling a lot more electricity. So the total amount of electricity being sold is in a normal band that we would have looked at over the last 5 years for houses that have been around for those 5 years. So there's still increased electric sales in the town because we've got more people living here. But that's what we found with those. We also found that 2021 was significantly higher than last year. But last year was lower than all the other 5 previous years. And that the 2016, 2017, and 2017, 2018, December and January, were similar in the preliminary data that we reviewed. I don't have it finalized yet. We're very similar to what we're seeing in 2021 on the whole. All of the meters that we have seen so far have been performing correctly, that we've seen. They're within their tolerance. I may have heard of one bad meter today, and I'm not sure, but I think of all those 7,000 meters, everything we've tested seems to be working out within their tolerances. And we're going to continue to work through bills that have the highest deviation and call those customers up. I think one of our most statistically fluctuating biggest bill, we went through the numbers and we did find where some numbers got transposed. And Ann worked this weekend with a lot of those deviations to go back and find that transposed number, and I think we've got that normalized now. And we're going through with our statistical analysis that we did with an outside firm, and they sent it to us. Ann's got a list of a number of tens of customers that we can go back and check for their billing. So, as I said, we'll keep working on this for the next 2 weeks and be reporting back to you. I will say this, the high bills are a primary concern. We take it very seriously. We've all lived with this when your bills go up. I would ask the public to just, our customers that we've worked with for years, to please continue to send your bills and addresses, your bills and your address in writing or where the problem is so that we can process it. We can't get it off social media. We can't get it off our website. We really need you to contact, and I think most people are, but we still have some using social media and other means to get us stuff. We really need to have it in writing. We also provide free energy audits. Dale Medlin's group provides energy audits for folks. We can only do about 10 a week, about 2 a day. But we've called Electricities to see if we can get some more help. But if your bills are spiked and we think our numbers are right and you think they're wrong, we'll come out and do the energy audit for you, not to accuse you, but just to walk through together and say, where could this be coming from? And then finally, the harder thing to say is we need everybody to keep paying your bills. Right now, we're selling any more electricity than we have before. So I just say that nobody can a lot of times pay their unexpected bills. If you've got a problem, please call us and let us know. We've got a lot of ways to give you relief and help with that. But if you fall behind, and we see this over and over, once people fall behind by not paying their whole bill, it is very, very hard to catch up over the years. So we just ask you to keep paying your bill. And if you can't pay it all, please let us know that too, and we'll continue to work with you. So I will keep the council informed, and Kathy and I will be keeping some stuff on the website and the social media as far as things we're doing and reports we have. But that's all I have to report on our electric meter situation, electric bills tonight.
Thank you. Can you give for our audience social media this evening and those listening to the recording in the future, what are the best contact numbers or emails for them to send their requests or concerns to?
And I'll let you do the 1-800 Town of Clayton.
Mayor, we have a portal, a website that they can certainly, I shouldn't say website, a link they can send information to. It's utilities@townofclaytonnc.org. That comes to my entire staff. Any bill complaints are coming to me or the 2 ladies that do billing specifically. But, and again, people are welcome to contact me directly too. I'm here at Town Hall and I'll be more than happy to speak to customers.
Yes. And I've gotten some emails and some phone calls. I'm going to send those to Ann right off the bat in her group. which they normally do a real good job. But if you need to come in for some reason, I know we got the building closed, but we don't want people to really feel like they can't see or talk to somebody. If you need to come in for those really high bills, we'll entertain that as well and bring people in and sit down face to face as we need to.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? I know this has been very frustrating. I've never been quite as bombarded with so many emails as it pertains to utilities in the town of Clayton. And I want to thank staff for the good job they're doing of responding to the inquiries. And, I think that the mayor and certainly this council understands when citizens have an increase in their utility bill in 1 month that's completely unexpected and how that interrupts the cash flow of the home finances. We're very acutely aware of that, and we don't take that lightly. There's been some conversation on the social media that should the town of Clayton find these new meters that are not correct, and people have been overcharged for something that they didn't, would the town of Clayton be offering up refunds? And I think it's definitely fair to say that of course we would be. We're here to provide good quality service for our utility customers, which is not only in responding to your needs, but when we have a major hurricane or anything along those lines where our power team is out there getting your electricity turned back on quickly. So I want to let you know for the record that the mayor's utility bill went up $150, that the mayor has had his electricity cut off in his long stint as a town of Clayton power customer. I have paid late fees. I've forgotten to pay my bill, and then I've not had a happy life because not a happy wife, right? Coming home to no electricity. So I know times are very stressful with COVID and the pandemic and everything that we have going on, but we are definitely aware of what's going on with this, and we are doing our tremendous due diligence to assure the customers, Town of Clayton Power, that we're getting everything in order the way that it should be, and any discrepancies that we run across will definitely be handled on a case-by-case basis. And we thank you for, your patience in all of this, because I know it's tough when your pocketbook, anyone's pocketbook, gets hit unexpectedly. So we thank you for your patience, and we'll look forward to continued updates on this, JD. Thank you. All right, anything else from the manager?
No.
All right, thank you, sir.
Tonight.
No, well, you did good. All right, town attorney?
No report tonight, Mayor.
Sir, town clerk?
No reports, thank you.
Any other staff? All right, I'll now open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Please step forward and state your name for the record.
My name's Alan Tew, lifelong resident of Clayton. Practiced law here for 49 years, and I have a love for this town. It's been good to me. I've raised 5 children. None of them have spent any major time in prison, so that's Johnston County's success, and it's attributable to the community that they grew up in, the response and the attention that the people gave to each other, which Art, Andy, you know, and Bobby. So I'm talking to people who are home folks. I'm here, and I want to preface my remarks with something. We live in a community which is small. We see each other on a regular basis. Comments that are made which are not received as being friendly comments are often taken personally. I'm here because of my love for my town and for my desire to have this council address issues. So with that in mind and a gracious appreciation and thanks for all that you all did with 160D, I looked at the revisions that the state had passed and I just stopped and I glazed over and I thought somebody's going to have a headache to deal with it. Second thing I want to do is to welcome Mr. Avery.
Yeah, Avery Everett.
Emory,
You got it.
okay,
Yes,
it's
sir.
hard to read there.
Okay.
You are the second African-American to serve on this town council. The other one being Nate Sanders, who served well. Welcome. We appreciate the diversity, and I hope that in the future there will be gender diversity. We had Kathleen Boykin years ago, and I think all of these things help to have a community that focuses from the perspective of every resident. So I've got several matters that I want to address. I'll be brief. I don't need to make partner. I'm not here representing the client. The first is some internet and IT issues, and one of which, and maybe it's me, I am cyberphobic. I have chronically reoccurring bouts, fear of computers, but making it user-friendly. I went online to print a copy of the agenda, and I got 2 pages, the boilerplate page, and that, which has the end of things, and I tried twice, so that would be helpful if somebody could look at that, and if it's me, I apologize for taking your time. Another thing, and I've mentioned this before, in doing research, and especially if you're doing research relating to the code, it is so complex that it is difficult for even those who knew what's in there to follow it. And so when I do research on any matter, I go to my sources and I find certain information, and I have a research folder, and I cut and paste and put in there the information which shows the source. You cannot do that with this code. Please get somebody to attend to that to make it easier for the users. The other thing is this: I think there is a current bill to permit the use of Facebook for complying with the legal requirement for public notices. And I beg you not, if you've got any say-so, don't do that. It lends itself to being manipulated. I looked at an article, the caption of which says, Facebook says it will restore groups infiltrated by saboteurs. This is back in May of 2019, and what happened was that a group of websites were infiltrated, taken over, and of course things were posted there that were not reflective of the websites, and so they closed them off, and then when they came back private. Please don't use it. I've been on Facebook, I still am, but I have been hacked, I think, 4 times. I don't make any comments, and I would think that sometimes something other than the face is what people show by their comments. And it is ultimately, I think, a place to create conflict and turmoil. So I would ask you if you have any input or participation in that process, that you would urge that it's still done by the newsprint. The other thing that I want to address is something that is sensitive, but yet it is something that is critical. Confidence in a government is based upon the credibility of those that serve it and the manner in which they conduct their business, and we've seen no greater example of that than the past 4 years. And I'm going to say, I've got on my notes, BS, and that means before Steve. So in 1996, many of you all recall how the business was conducted. It was in a way that would set an example of how not to do it. You would read in the newspaper the things that were occurring. people were personalizing issues. There was a lot of animosity shown, and it was unhealthy. And I am hopeful that what I saw and read and saw on the news is not for us back to the future. Since Steve came here in 96, the things changed. Business was conducted as it should have been conducted. And I'm not calling anybody out about any of this, but I'm just going to suggest some things. The key to any relationship and the obligation of an elected official, in particular in discharge of his oath, is to effectively communicate. And that means with those people that elected you to serve. If you don't communicate with them, and I think we've seen an example of that, there's the perception. You can take three different perceptions of that. One is the person doesn't have time to return a call, in which event they shouldn't be serving. Second, they don't make time to return a call, in which event they can't effectively serve. And then the third is they're indifferent, they're arrogant, and the end result, and I think we've seen some of that, is that people don't get reelected. Then, as it relates to how the business is conducted, and you think about this, people are looking at challenges between people on this board about not being known, not being contacted, or not responding to contacts. That doesn't sit well. It challenges the credibility of the people that we have serving us. So I hope, and again, on an issue of good government and fulfilling the obligation that you have as elected officials, return calls. The next issue is the town's reputation. It's in need of repair. Towns had some tough times, and I think back in the 70s when I was first starting here, it lost some population. So it always hasn't been the attraction that it is now. But in spite of the attraction that it does hold as being progressive and being responsive and being a good place to live, which I fully believe it is, there are problems. And I think some of the problems are a result of what I would refer to as a disconnect with the town council, management, and the public following Steve's departure. You all have, at last, thankfully, taken care of a management issue. And when I read what Councilman Thompson wrote, it made me feel better. During the period of time that I had to deal with things here at the town, I often wondered, was it me? Well, I found out that I was not singled out for special treatment. I was somewhat amazed, well, but not surprised at the lack of communication and the impact on what this town knew or should have known. You are looking at the most critical factor of attracting good developers and a good tomorrow's values now, good development. And unless you have a planning department that is receptive, you got a huge problem. And I just want to go back through some of the things that bring this, and I brought it to your attention before, and what I'm telling you is something that is fact. I remember, I think it was March 6, 2 years ago, I was in here, and I was having a conversation about this very thing, and I remember Councilman Grannis asking in what I perceived to be a somewhat aggressive manner for that information, and that is the town's sewer capacity. And I was in the process, or had been in the process, of a rezoning in which sewer capacity is an issue. Here are the things that I experienced. I asked for documents to show where the utilities were, the sewer lines, the electric lines, the things of that nature. And I had to go the second mile to get it. I was told that it was a security risk. That's crazy. Then I never did find out, and to this day I don't, so if somebody can tell me who I need to call to find out, I would appreciate it. The other thing was that when the pre-filing meeting was held, there was encouragement for the project as proposed. And then subsequently, it became obstructive, things of that nature. Then there was inaccurate information provided by the then planning director, in which he told me that they were not recommending, or that there was a concern about the failure of the town to grant a rezoning because of a lack of sewer capacity could expose the town to a claim for inverse condemnation. There's nothing any more absurd or untrue than that, and I confirmed what I know about condemnation with one who specializes in it, and it was just off the wall. Later, there was an acknowledgement. The town did not keep the sewer capacity records in such a fashion that it was amenable to disclosure under a Freedom of Information Act request. I know, I made one. And so one wonders why the leadership at that time did not see fit to provide in a format that was available for those who needed to know, i.e. those who were in a position of trying to get matters rezoned, and you couldn't get it. Then one of the most, I guess, disappointing things to me was that there was a person involved, and I won't call the person's name because they've never made any comment about it, but this person was prominent in terms of having contacts with developers, good users, things of like that, that could be bringing good projects to Clayton. We were required to attend a meeting relating, and it involved the then town engineer and the utilities engineer. We were there. Two people from the staff were there. One was the then director, and the other two were not there. I asked why. One was on vacation, and the other one, I never got an explanation, nor did I or the person who was with me ever receive any sort of an apology. I'm thick-skinned. I've been doing a lot of things for a long time. It didn't bother me, but I thought, what's wrong when you bring something good to the town, somebody who can help the town, not just that, but anybody and you get treated like that. There has been irreparable damage done. This town is blessed with proximity to two interstates, an intersection up there, and it attracts a lot of attention. But if you become arrogant, you're going to run off and you're going to lose a lot of good stuff, and you lose the goodwill of the town. I beg you all to repair the damage. I've dealt with every zoning director there's been here and dealt with the one in Raleigh when it first was new there, John Scott. And when you went to John Scott, you couldn't do anything because, well, what do you want to do? Well, you can't do that. When Skip Browder came here, he was the best that I've ever dealt with. He had a charisma, he had candor, he would answer your questions, and you could disagree agreeably. It is and has been, and I think probably still remains, one that I would characterize as combative, obstructionist, and that's no way to do things. So I beg you to take some measures there. Change is needed. The other thing, there are a couple of other things, and these are much shorter. Across from the mayor's office, diagonally, is the old town hall. You got the police palace beside it on the other side of Barber Street, and then my office is at the end. You've got two houses there that have transformed that neighborhood. Kevin Lee, he spent a lot of money there. And I have driven by daily and looked at what appears to be a decayed tooth in what is otherwise a nice smile. Now, I keep up with things, or try to from time to time, and I saw on the agenda that there was a proposed development agreement with Ashcroft. I have asked for a copy of that agreement, and I've been assured that I will receive one. But I ask you first, before you engage in any development agreement with this entity, which has the same principle in it as the town hall entity, that you make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, and that whatever agreements are made, you feel comfortable that you can count on performance and that you can secure performance. And I would hope that cleaning up Town Hall does not take the length of time that it took to get the old red and white. Please do something about that. I've asked in the past and was told that it is still considered to be under construction. There's nothing going on. Please, please help. The other thing is this, traffic. This street does not need to have on-street parking. The other morning I came in, I can't remember what time it was, and instead of waiting at the stoplight here because there's no left turn signal, I came up the street I can't remember, maybe it's Ellington Street anyway. I came up and came up on 2nd Street. When I got to 2nd and O'Neill, traffic was backed up on the right-hand side from there all the way down to the Methodist Church and then around for them to unload children. Even then, when I come home I come up this street, you got parking on both sides, and you got a one-way street for most of the area there. And if there is a problem with emergency vehicle access, then they're going to either have to go down Fayetteville Street, down to Blanche Street, or either go over to Main Street in order to access anything in the southeast quadrant. Please do something about that. One other thing, and I'm not asking for it at the moment, but back during the process by which this parking lot was expanded, and two things. One, I'd like to know what the ultimate budget is. Last count, I think it was 400 and almost 500,000. The second thing is, during that time, there appeared to, I was told there was discussion about eliminating, and I think there are 30 some parking spaces over here in the town square, eliminating that and having some sort of a performance venue there. I would like to know an answer about that. Parking is at a premium. The last issue that I want to address is this, and it's sort of a personal issue, but again, it has some implications. My brother and I are 77 and he'll be 79. I'll be 77 shortly and he'll be 79 in October. Back in 1958, the town deeded cemetery lots there. There's 6 lots there. Both of my parents are buried there. I don't want to be around in any form, and so burn, baby, burn. That's what is fine with me. Cremation, and my brother and our wives as well. And so I've got 4 lots that I want to do something with. And I pulled my dad's things, and I've got a copy of this, and I want to give it to you and ask you several questions, and then if you'll refer it to the right person, I would appreciate it. As a matter of law, one cannot deed the ground that is a burial plot, only the right to use it as a burial space. So this is not recorded, but it is in the form of a general warranty deed to my dad. And here's cemetery lot number 912 in Maplewood, measures 10 by 30 feet, as shown on a map of same, for burial purposes of white people only, and subject to the rules and regulations now in force or that may be put into force by the governing body of the town for the better upkeep and maintenance of said cemetery and permanent burial ground. So I went online and I looked, and the town has a price of $1,000 per lot. Well, as I thought, I wondered, because cemeteries have an obligation, private cemeteries have an obligation to maintain certain funding to assure perpetual care for the cemetery. I'm not sure that the town comes under that, but nonetheless, they have the obligation to maintain it. So, one, and people who don't acknowledge systemic racism by an entity, a governmental entity, need to read this, because it's for burial of white people only. You wonder, and I don't know, but is the setting of a fee of $1,000, and I have no idea what they're worth, something that is designed to keep it white? The other thing, and the second issue, is why does a town control it? There's nothing in this document that purports to control, and if that is to better upkeep and maintain the cemetery, then, you know, somebody explain that. So in any event, that's it for the things that I have as issues. finally, I want to commend you on what you did when you hired Mr. Solomon. I did not know the underlying facts that were in that newspaper article, but I'm not surprised, as I've said. And I think about what a mess there was, and I think you were lucky to find somebody qualified to step into, and I won't use any of the things that were used by some of the Trump folks, but I would say it is a dog's breakfast. And if you, a dog's breakfast is every morning you scrape everything on one plate, take it out, throw it in the dog's bowl and walk off. It was, and you were fortunate to find somebody to take it, and especially fortunate to take somebody with his credentials. I sat here tonight and listened to his presentation and was not surprised. It was characteristic of him. I heard more from him in one night than I heard from his predecessor. You have chosen well. The manner in which it was done was something that's regrettable and hopefully is not an indication of any division that you have on what you have. And I want you to think about it. I've known JD for a long time. My dealings with him have always been characterized by candor and an ability to communicate effectively with people, even when you disagreed. He has, by education and work experience and personal characteristics, preeminent qualifications to do what he does. And you think about it, you probably save some money. You've got not only somebody who is an adept and responsive administrator, but also somebody who gets things done. And then there is one thing that relates to getting things done. I've called him maybe 3 times. I've always gotten a call back. On one occasion, he asked, I believe Ms. Moffett to call or someone to call. They did, and then I got a call after work. He'd been in a meeting, and he wanted to know if my question was resolved. It was. But there's one other thing that points to getting things done. For 2 years or more, I have spoken with many of you all here and have spoken with the planning department about doing an inspection of what is, even to the casual observer, an obvious just example of violation of the zoning code. And it's 1 block from here. I never got any response from that, and somebody laced me down about a beauty pageant and not enforcing things that based on that. Well, there were, as it turns out, there were violations. Those violations are being addressed. That was at the end of January. That's what gets results, and that was in the planning department. So thank you for tolerating me, and hopefully these issues will be addressed, and I appreciate your service, especially after we've got COVID-19 and you all have got 160D. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tu. Anyone else wish to speak in public comment? If not, I'll turn it over to council for comments. The comments from council, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night.